Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Back in, bring me back to life. My mind's in circles, but you're my straight line.
What's up, everybody? Today I got Robbie from the awesome band Dancing on Tables out of Scotland. One of my favorite areas of where music comes out of. So Robbie, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. I mean, why don't we jump right in? Why don't you give us a little background of how Dancing on Tables became a thing in a band and friends getting together and hooking up?
Yeah, so we've basically known each other for pretty much all of our life now. We all went to school together. Like me and Hamish, the guitarist, literally grew up the road across from each other, and we've just kind of always been friends who played music and played in different bands. And then maybe about 6 years ago, we're like, oh, we may as well, we've been friends all this time. We may as well try and make a band together. And something just clicked between us, and we started writing, and just slowly and surely things just got bigger and bigger. And now, yeah, here we are. We're still those kind of 5 kind of stupid friends who just hang about, but now we are also in a band.
Well, I would say it's more than hanging about. I mean, you've had a nice meteoric rise. I mean, early on, you played the singles game, how I guess music is produced nowadays, where you were putting out single after single after single. You caught on, started touring, got to do arena tours with Catfish and the Bottlemen, and part of a campaign. I mean, so from just hanging about, being with friends to where you are now, it's pretty fucking cool to think about, right?
Yeah, it is one of those kind of like pinch yourself sometimes. And as you say, like we started doing the whole single thing, and that was great. And it was great to get music out there, and every single we put out, it'd have that that bigger following, and it kept growing. But we've now just finally put out our debut album, which was in October, and that kind of album process was just so much more rewarding as a musician than kind of playing the singles game. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's something we're still absolutely loving, and it's just the best time getting to like travel the world and do all these things with your friends.
Yeah, and that debut album you talked about, for those who don't know, it's called Color in the Gray. And I mean, you said that doing that whole process, I mean, was that new to you in your life of doing a full album process? Had you done it in the past doing something else, or was this just a whole new experience and it was something more rewarding when it was done, or were you disappointed with anything?
No, it was a completely new experience for all of us. We'd only ever done EPs either as a band or in any other project. So it was just really nice because we had to actually sit down before, we wrote, I don't know, around like 100 tracks for this album because we basically wrote it during lockdown. So we had nothing else to do. So we just get together on Zoom every day and write. So we had all these tracks, and we had to like properly sit down and think, right, what is Dancing on Tables? Like, what do we want to sound like? What kind of message do we want to have in our music? And that was the first time that we'd ever actually stopped in, this whole kind of 5-year journey and thought, right, we need to make some decisions now which are going to affect basically the rest of our careers if we manage to make this our career, because I always feel a debut album is like the starting point for any band, and it's your kind of jumping off point into the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, writing 100 songs. I mean, so you wrote 10 albums in a short period of time. I mean, how was the process? I mean, I was lucky enough to be privy to have the bonus stuff sent to me when I first got the album. And I mean, how did you sit down to, I mean, for the tracks that are on the album and then the exciting bonus ones that I got, I mean, to have 100 and to log them down to just be like, here's 12 and then here's some bonus stuff. Like how did that process work for you? And how easy was it to just say, okay, no, this one's shit. Let's go on to something else. Like, cause that's a tough thing.
Yeah, it was actually like we tried to be as like democratic as we could, and like because there's 5 guys in the band, so when we started, we're like, right, we're gonna like all pick 30 songs, which you'd think 30 out of 100. How different can it be? Then we thought we'd all have like 10 or 15 that everybody had, and we sat down and we're going through the list, and I think it was like 70 of the 100 had at least one vote. Oh, fuck, man. Like, we thought that was going to be it. Like, one round, okay, that's all the favourites. You narrow down the rest later on. But, we just had, we ended up having, rounds of voting. And then, when we got it down to, say, 25, we kind of got together. By that time, we could all be in the same room. So we're, working through them, developing them as proper, into how we would play it as a band. And then you'd narrow that down, and then somebody would go, oh no, now we're back playing together. What about this one that didn't get through? And then you're back to square one. And oh man, it was just to be honest, that was the worst process, because as you say, we got these bonus tracks, and one of my favorite tracks out of everything that we've done maybe didn't make it and is maybe on the bonus, or somebody else's didn't get cut at all. But yeah, it's just the way that it is. And to be honest, it's been a good start for us, because it gives us so much content for this album. And then now we're talking about album 2, and the first thing we did was go back and listen through all the demos again that didn't make it, and be like, there's 3 or 4 already. We're like, right, we can rework this, we can do this to it. And yeah, so even the favourites that we maybe had that didn't make it, they're still in with a chance.
Yeah, so I mean, something good came out of that democratic process, because you have all this leftover stuff too that, as you said, everything, people had different things on there, and now you can go back to it and be like, okay, we can figure out how to do something like that. And I mean, because I would think it would be hard, especially if there's a band that is like, all right, we got to put out an album. They write 20 tracks, they put 10 on it, and then they got to come up with a whole nother album. So that process would take them a much longer time. Like Rivers Cuomo has said, from Weezer has said, he's like, yeah, no, I write 110 songs for every album, and then I pick the best 12.
And that's why Weezer have been so successful, because I look back to stuff we did before this album, and say we'd put out a 4-track EP, we'd maybe have 6 or 7 songs to choose from, kind of max. When we started out, it was write a song, release it. It was literally like that, and we just we got lucky in a way, because we managed to kind of hit the jackpot a little bit with what we were releasing. But now, it gives me an absolute fear thinking back to that. It's safety in numbers in a way. Now we're right, we'll massively overwrite in everything that we do.
Well, it's a good way to move forward.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And but it's definitely not something we're going to go back to.
Yeah, well, I'm going to work backwards here in your life. And what was it that brought you, and what age were you as a kid where music became something to you, where you first heard something that changed your entire mind on music?
I think for me, there's like I'd always kind of liked music and always, like done like drama and things at school, and always liked the kind of feeling of performing. And then it maybe wasn't until I was like 10 or 11 maybe, and I remember like my dad used to take me to like football or like soccer games on a Sunday, and it was like on those journeys going around, like dropping me off in all these random places to play, that I'd like kind of be going through his CD collection, and he had like Sex Pistols and The Clash and like AC/DC and bands like that, and that kind of completely opened my eyes to, this is what music can be. It can be this big, like, it can be raw, it can be this wall of sound, it can be things with so much attitude and but still so much meaning behind them. It wasn't just what I was getting in, the recent kind of chart pop compilation albums that I'd probably been getting for my birthday for the 5 years before. So for me, it was like that kind of like 6 months of my life that I'd be so excited to be going to these games on a Sunday, because like I'd be going through my dad's collection and pick like 3 random albums that I like the cover art of, and that's how I'd get to discover music, really. And it's maybe, yeah, and for me, it's that kind of sent me on my way. And then not long after that, I ditched playing piano, picked up a guitar, because I just wanted to be like these guitar bands that I was hearing. And yeah, that definitely started my journey.
Yeah, you bring up, and this comes up all the time. I mean, majority of people first instrument is piano, and it's usually like my mom made me take lessons, and everybody gives it up, and it's something that everybody's like, I wish I kept with it when you're later on in life, but you can just never pick it back up, because they wanted to be cooler. They wanted to play a guitar, because there was only like 2 piano players, Elton John and Billy Joel, that you could follow.
Yeah. For me, it was like I was like 13, and I was like, girls aren't going to fancy a guy playing a piano. So that's out the window. I'm going to pick up a guitar.
Now, when you start moving away from your father's collection, where did you start to lean towards and finding your own music, and what bands like brought you in heavier into wanting to create music?
For me, it was a case of kind of using what I had as a platform in a way, and kind of like going out there. And to be fair, like my first like festival that I went to was this big festival in Scotland, and I didn't know many bands. I was like maybe like 11, but then I just went and saw, I ended up seeing Goo Goo Dolls, which were the first band I ever saw live. I had no idea who they were, like, and then from then on I'd be like, right, I'm gonna get, save up my money, get a Goo Goo Dolls album because I've seen them. And then you go down the shop, and then you see who else you recognize and know the names of. For me as well, like that was the kind of, to be honest, the gateway which kind of got me into writing songs was listening to, I'd like basically went to this local gig, heard this band covering Where Is My Mind by Pixies, and just being like, that is the coolest song that I've ever heard. And then being like, oh, like, where can I stream that song? And they're like, oh, like a really embarrassing moment for a young me. They're like, no, that's not our song, that's a cover. I was like, oh my God, who's the band then? Tell me. So that's when I went in this like insane Pixies phase and actually started like writing my own music. So it was more kind of like accidental, kind of me stumbling around music growing up and just trying to find my own way, and having a lot of misses, but also having quite a lot of hits in what I found.
Well, that's the problem too, when those misses come along. Now it's easier because you can find the misses and just scroll right past it, where before, I would find the misses, but I spent, say $15 to $20 on a CD and found a miss, and I had to teach myself to learn to love it because I just spent all this money. So
that's the thing. There was no, like, you just had to grin and bear it, and you spent the money, you've listened to it, and you're just going to have to keep listening to it until next week, until you can get another one.
Yeah. Now, when you started playing music, what was you got the guitar, as you said, did you run out and try to find people to play with and start a band? Because that's usually like the next progression. Like a lot of people who pick up a guitar don't know how to play it, but the first thing they do is find other people that have instruments to play in a band.
Yeah, it was basically an element of that. Originally, to be fair, it was a kind of mix between me because at this time I remember it was my friend who was kind of teaching me guitar at the start, and then I like sang this cover, and he thought it was the most hilarious thing because I just couldn't sing at all, and he was like laughing so much. I was like, oh shit, like I thought I was being really cool, like confiding in my best friend, and he just laughed. So then that kind of took a bit of a break, and it was maybe like a couple of years later, and I was much more confident in what I was playing. And then it was like, right, I need a drummer, like I need somebody else. You know, it was the classic, like 16-year-old to like a rhythm guitar, a lead guitar, and drums, and just calling ourselves a band and just playing whatever songs we all knew the chords to. You know,
What was the name of that band?
that was called Burn the City, which was us trying to be a kind of, you know, anarchic, anti-establishment, you know, quite polite 16-year-old boys.
Yeah, the 16-year-olds who went through so much trauma.
Yeah,
yeah.
We had it worse than anyone, man. Of course. Yeah, we thought we were the coolest thing, and then after 3 months, somebody gets bored of it and goes onto another band, and suddenly you realize, oh no, actually, I maybe need to redefine what I think cool is.
Well, hey, listen, you have the distinction of Burn the City not being a bad name for a first band. We've had some crazy ones here, so that's a really good first name for a band.
I'll take that as a compliment, definitely.
Now, you had said you got into some festivals and stuff. Like, what was the first live show you ever saw?
First one that I ever saw was, I was quite lucky because just as I was kind of growing up and really getting into music, there was an old theatre in this like little kind of Scottish town that I live in that had just been renovated, and it used to be like a really big thing in the kind of 50s and 60s, and it had just opened, so it was kind of like a wave of really cool acts coming through. So the first one that I saw was this. I mean, he's still one of my all-time favourite singers, but a Scottish singer called Paolo Nutini, who has just got the most amazing voice. And yeah, that was the first time that I'd ever been to a proper gig and just fell in love with the kind of whole concept of what I was seeing and the environment that I was in. Yeah, I was just kind of hooked from there.
That's all. Do you have any shows that stand out of live bands other than yours that you got to see that you just couldn't believe you got to see what you saw?
Probably, I mean, it kind of, a lot of things can blend into one. I went to see, just in the summer actually, I went to see Leon Bridges in Edinburgh, which I've just loved him for so much. And like his music was first dance at our wedding, and so yeah, that was like a really special moment because I attached so much emotional significance to his music. So that's another one which really stands out for me.
That's awesome.
Apart from that, it's just kind of we get really drunk and listen to our favorite bands, so they all have kind of similar experiences.
Now, speaking of what bands that do you have in your life that like never let you down, that you always find a way to turn back to them and go back to them? Some people call it your favorite band. I call it bands that never let me down, that I always just turn to and listen to when I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah, I'd say one band, LCD Sound System, for me, are just always like really just easy listening. The Strokes as well, another kind of New York noughties band. Just so, yeah, both of them are just, they have albums which I can stick on. I know all the words, I know all the tracks, and I just know that I'm going to enjoy it and listen to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Strokes for me, and I'm right by New York City, and I mean when they came out and that first album came out, it was something so. It seemed so old but so new at the same time, and it was so cool to have something like that. For me, being an older man, like being like, wow, so it's still possible for people to make great music. Like, I think it was at a time when they came out that I was kind of like working away from music, which was really hard for me, but I would just like, nothing was getting me excited anymore.
Yeah. Oh, they're. I've read like a few books about them and about kind of that era of like that time of New York and music and what was going on. Just sounds. It's like one of those things where if you could go back, to any time, like that just sounded like the coolest time ever to be a musician. It was to be in New York, kind of early noughties, just sounded amazing.
Yeah, and that's where I was every day going to shows, and it was, there was stuff like, and you could feel when that started to come about that like things were about to change.
Yeah,
And,
I'm very jealous of that.
yeah, you got a beautiful area to be in anyway. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
I love Scotland, so I mean it's amazing out there. So
To be fair, it has also kind of musically over the years really punched above its weight for the size of country that it is, and kind of what we've produced.
No, absolutely. I tell people all the
Obviously.
time. There's so many bands that I force upon people, and they're just like, "What's your thing with Scottish bands?" I'm like, "Because they're all fucking amazing." And there's just this simplicity to a smaller country, and like just a different way of life, and the music that comes out of it. I mean, it's different than growing up in, with $1 million in Los Angeles is different than growing up in Scotland in a small house and
Yeah.
nothing, and writing off of life and experience. It's completely different, and you can feel it. 3 of my favorite bands are Scottish bands. So it's just one of those things that I just find myself just gravitating towards.
Who are the bands, if you don't mind me asking?
First, Teenage Fan Club.
Yes.
Got me through my high school years. Yeah. Frightened Rabbit.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Scott, and Biffy Clyro.
That is a very good top 3 choice. I can't really debate that at all.
And they're bands that I've like pushed on people, like, no, you need to listen to them. For me, Biffy Clyro, my wife and I, fell in love with them. And, you brought up Google Dolls earlier, and I try to explain to people, like with the Google Dolls, their first 2 albums were straight punk rock albums. And like hard lo-fi punk rock albums. And then they got into a more popular side. Biffy Clyro, it was almost metal, like hardcore metal, their first couple albums, and then they've grown to be the rock band that they are. And I always equate them. I'm like, listen, they're the Foo Fighters on the other side of the pond. That's who they are.
Yeah, that is a very good way to describe it, to be fair. It really is.
Now, you've been able to play many awesome places. So when did it first hit you while you were playing live venues that, holy shit, we're doing something special?
To be honest, probably the first time that we went out to America, which was maybe 4 years ago, I think. And we just did a kind of, it was an industry show, but it was, a kind of like 4 p.m. start. We were in Nashville. But like for us, that was just the most amazing like experience, and we're like standing ready to go on stage, and industry shows are just full of people standing there with their arms folded, and you can never get any kind of emotion from them whatsoever.
Yeah, nobody really ever wanted to be there.
Yeah, you could be the best thing they've ever seen or the worst, and they're still going to react the same way. But that kind of that experience of, as I said, like 5 mates, and suddenly we're about to go on and play in Nashville was just completely, wake me up, what is going on here? So that was the starting point, the kind of turning point when we're like, right, this is something we could really do, and this is a great feeling.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Nashville, for someone who's never been there, I mean, and it's grown exponentially over the past 15 years, but to just walk into the Nashville scene for an industry show that's got to be mind blowing in and of itself, to come to the States and do that, regardless of who's there.
Yeah, no, it was just being there in that environment with the kind of history and culture surrounding you. wasn't intimidating enough, but to know that you're playing to people who work in the music industry in that environment and culture was incredibly intimidating. But no, we've made some lifelong friends in Nashville and over in America. So yeah, for us, it's like a second massive home for us instead of Scotland.
That's awesome. I mean, from writing 100 songs for your album that just came out, I mean, being in the city where songwriting became a thing is, awesome.
Yeah, a lot of we've learned a lot in the time that we've been there, both songwriting and just kind of life in general. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah, you know the story of songwriting in Nashville and how that all started at the Opry?
No, I don't.
Oh, so the reason why Nashville is such a huge songwriting place and so many people go there and just become songwriters is back in the 50s, there would be people who would write songs, but they weren't good enough to sing or play them. So they would literally stand out in a line outside the Opry when an artist was performing and coming out and literally hand them their songs.
Wow.
And the people would take their songs, and that's, hey, I like this, here's $40.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's why Nashville is such a big songwriting city, because that's how it all started with songwriters. I'm not good enough to perform myself, but I think the song is great. And they would just stand out in line and hand them to the artists who were coming off the stage at the Opry.
Wow. I did not know that, but I'm definitely going to use that and impress somebody else with that fact now and just act the cool guy.
Yeah. There's an awesome book on it, and there's an awesome documentary too as well on songwriting in Nashville, which is really cool.
100% check that out.
Yeah. And so for you and traveling around and doing all this stuff, there has to be times that you're just, you and your mates are listening to music, touring around the world. I mean, what do you find yourself listening to when you're on tour, and who has, is it a full democracy when it comes to, say, driving the van around Europe, listening to music?
Yeah, it's sometimes a democracy. Normally at the very start of tours, when we're all in great moods, it's, like a Spotify shared session when everybody's adding their songs. But to be honest, on that note as well, we all have quite different musical backgrounds, and slightly, we will all like similar music, but we maybe all have like our favorites in slightly different areas and different eras. So you can normally tell when a song comes on, it's like, oh, it's Led Zepp, that's Hamish the guitarist, 100%, or new 1975 album, right, that's Gregor. I could go down and tell you whose songs most of them are. And then the longer the tour goes on and the more driving is done, it ends up just being whoever's driving puts on whatever they decide, because they're the driver and everybody else can put their headphones on, essentially. I say that because only 3 of us drive, so I've been in that position a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that democracy turns into an autocracy real fast.
Really quickly when you add in sleepless nights and long drives.
Yeah. But you said something there which I think is really cool, and I've suggested to many people before, everyone having different backgrounds in a band usually makes for a very special band, because of the simple fact that you're not all into the same things, because if you are, sometimes you find complacency real fast in the music you're creating, and there's not a lot of pushback on things. So having that different musical background, I just lends itself to the music that I hear from you guys.
Yeah, I think that's as well why we've struggled a bit over the years before this album to really kind of find our sound and really define Dancing on Tables. And even now it's like, people ask, well, what kind of music is it? I'm like, oh, it's like alt rock. It's somewhere in between pop and rock. And it's just kind of hard to put our finger on still. But I think that is because we all have different preferences and different backgrounds. And even like from a songwriting point of view, between Callum and I, like he is like grew up loving and listening to the Beatles, and I grew up loving the Clash, and there's still so much story writing in between those, and it's how we use our influences to kind of gel together, and that creates Dancing on Tables, which is somewhere in between a lot of different things.
Yeah, I mean, and you said alt rock, right? And I think right now, I truly believe there's kind of really only two things that people can fall in. It's like indie rock or alt rock, because it just is encompassing everything nowadays. And it's just weird to see when you go on to a site like Bandcamp that has the subgenres that I don't know what half of them mean.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. I know exactly what you mean, because maybe if we did want to define ourselves as something else, maybe you've seen a band use, I don't know, like power pop or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you don't know any other bands who describe themselves as that, and then you think, oh well, if we describe ourselves as that, we look like we're copying that band, so we'll just go for what everybody else is doing. So yeah, maybe times will change, and in 5 years, everybody will be using some new word that nobody's used yet or something.
We'll come up with our own.
Yeah, we'll just be Dancing on Tables, and other bands can be
Yeah, and
dancing tables if
that's
they
their
want
own
to.
genre. Yeah, you create your own genre, and everybody has to kowtow to you. So
That sounds like the plan.
And you brought up something. This is a question that I love to find out about. You said that people ask you what kind of band you are, but if someone asked you to play one of your songs for them that would best describe what you are, what one of your songs would you play for them?
I'd probably go from our new album. I'd go for "Breathe," because it's a song that when we originally wrote it, um, it was a kind of like slow piano ballad, and it's like a really it's got depth to the story and to the lyrics, and we really thought about what we were saying and what we're singing. And then when we got it with the rest of the band, it was like, right, let's up the tempo a bit, right, let's up it a little bit more, and eventually became this kind of jumping about, big, powerful rock song that has kind of got a feel good vibe to it. So I think that encompasses everything that we try to do, and that we're trying to put out catchy songs that people are going to love and listen to again and again, but we're also trying to not just put any words that we want in there. We want to just use that kind of Nashville influence and tell stories, and so people can resonate with some things that we're saying, hopefully. So yeah, Breathe for me is the one that does all that.
Okay. Now, would you say "Breathe" is your favorite song you've released to date, or do you have another song that you would say is your favorite that you've released? Because your favorite could be different than what you play for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite probably changes in different scenarios. My favorite to play live is, again, a new one. In fact, no, an older one called Body, which is just, it's the one when we play live, I just end up so out of breath by the end because I'm just jumping about for the full thing. But it was like the first single that we released as well. It was maybe like 2019 that started to get really good feedback, and the kind of memory of writing it and release it, like I feel like it was a lifetime ago, but it was, yeah, it's just a really good song that I love playing, I still love listening to, and has really positive kind of memories associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, the memory is the big thing when it comes to music. I mean, I'm all about listening to a song and remembering everything about the moment I first heard it or played it or anything, and just being like, yeah, and just being brought back there immediately.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about music. That's why music, everybody loves it, and it will never ever go away, is because of that exact thing. It's attaching memories.
Yeah, it's a time machine.
Oh, yeah.
It's a time machine. It brings you right back to that moment, which is, for a lot of people, it could have, good connotations to it or bad connotations to it, but it's going to bring you back there regardless.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Do you have a moment in your life where that moment wouldn't have been complete without what was playing in the background?
I mean, probably the most obvious answer, but probably is like I've mentioned earlier, I got married at the start of the
Yeah.
year, and I mean, we actually picked the entire playlist for the whole night. So I've got a playlist of like 60 songs that I listen to. I'm like, oh, that's when, we were eating this meal, or this is when I was speaking to this person. So that's a really literal
Yeah,
kind of,
because
yeah.
that's a very important thing. When I got married, too, the gift to everyone was the playlist. I had made copies and made a
Oh,
cover to
nice.
the entire soundtrack, and that was everyone's, party favor. And I
That's
had
a
the
great
CDs
idea.
out on the table, and because it everything was just perfectly placed. And that's, talking to the DJ, I'm like, here you go. He's like, well, I'm like, no, this is our playlist. Like, this is what we're doing. It's on everyone's table and everyone's going home with it. And it's the music that means the most to us. So this is what we're going to listen to. And that was, it's those moments in time that without a soundtrack, that moment would not have been complete. So I feel you on that.
No, that's a great idea. And as you say, like, music is so personal. So if you're saying that these are the songs that mean the most and you love the most, then why play anything else if you've got that already? That's amazing.
Now, when it comes to music and finding new music to listen to, what's the way you go about it? Do you just wait for people to hand you stuff, or are you a seeker of new love of music?
It kind of depends on the situation. To be honest, a lot of the time it'll be in the van, and the guys will put on, oh, like, oh, have you checked this band out, or have you listened to this album? And that's how I'll find a lot of things. Or like I still, I'm driving about a lot. I'll listen to a couple of my favorite radio shows here in the UK, that especially the kind of more underground alternative ones, where you end up, you take more of a chance because they're taking a chance on people as well. But that's when I've found some amazing kind of bands that aren't household names and aren't, not many people know of them over here,
Yeah.
especially. So yeah,
Well, those people are important. They're more important than the guy playing the stuff that's popular.
a
I
million percent,
and
million.
that's what we try to do is I don't need to have, Eric Clapton on my show, right? Like, because
Yeah,
everybody knows who he is. Like, you guys have grown exponentially, and it's the same thing. And I'll go back to one of the bands that I love so dearly, and Biffy Clyro is. They played at festivals of 100,000 people over in Scotland and Europe, and they headline, and they come to the States here, and I get to see them in a room with 750 people because people don't know who they
yeah,
are here. And it's crazy to me.
exactly.
And it's like how can there be so much amazing stuff that so many people don't know about? So it's taking that chance on certain bands that, it makes me excited. Like, just finding those new bands that it's like, oh my God, these guys are great. How many followers do they have? They have 210 followers. I'm like, well, fuck that. Let's get them more. Let's do this. So
No, absolutely. And like, as like, you learn to, just as you get attached and you follow, you can't wait for new releases from musicians. Like, you get to trust stations and you get to trust DJs because they've brought you, you've discovered X, Y, and Z through them already. So if you're needing
yeah.
something to listen to, you're a bit of inspiration, can't think of anything. You're, I'm going to check out what this guy's been playing, or this station's had on. So yeah, it's definitely for me, it's my favorite way to find new things.
Yeah. And, listen, unfortunately for me, who has a weekly show, and at the end of the show, when I have to give the 3 things I'm currently listening to, listen, they're not all going to be the greatest, but I love them at that moment. So that's what I try to explain to people. You're going to find something new with us at some point that is going to be the band that you're going to follow for the rest of your life. And that's, and that's what I think is hard too about today's world of music. You started out doing the singles game, right? Which is great to start out. But what happens to me is, like, I'll find a band that I'm like, wow, these guys are fucking great. And I'm like, I only got 3 songs from them. And then
Yeah,
I get stuck, and it's like, it's so hard because there's so much out there. How do you keep up with that band again? Because you don't ever know when that next song's coming. And that's where I think it it's really good and it's also really bad that there's this platform to be able to do something like that. Because I could find somebody that I love with 3 songs and then never hear from them again, or don't hear anything for 2 years, and it's just like, oh, what
Yeah.
now?
No, absolutely. And that's why I think we were so keen to make that step and hit that first album. So people who, hopefully still capture the kind of imagination and love of the people who liked the earlier stuff and liked the original singles.
Now, what is moving forward? And the album came out in October. I mean, what are your plans for moving forward and for the band and bringing it, around the world even more than what you've already done?
Yeah, so basically next year we just finished this weekend there past our UK tour promoting the album. So we're taking a few months and then we're gonna come over and do some more kind of American based things. And then we're gonna head out in UK and Europe and do a few more headline shows come April. We've got the deluxe version that you mentioned coming out at the start of next year as well. And we'll be putting another single out to coincide with that, with like new videos and things as well. So yeah, basically that's kind of release wise what we're doing, and in the background we'll just be trying our best to write 100 more songs for album 2.
Well, you only need another 20 25, so you'll be
We've got a little like Google Drive folder, and we literally do already have like 23 that are plugged in, so that's 23% of the way there.
Now, when it comes to moments in your life, for instance, here you go. There's a meteor's going to crash into the earth. You have 5 minutes left to live. What song are you listening to before you go?
Oh, I would maybe say I love, and it's actually probably quite a fitting one for that scenario. "You Only Live Once" by The Strokes is like a go-to favorite song of mine, and that would make me laugh in that scenario, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, at that moment, it kind of is. Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck didn't do the job, so we're all going to die, and we got to find something to listen to. What was the last song you cried to?
Oh, gosh, I honestly don't know. I'm not.
You're not emotional?
I'm not overly outwardly emotional. There's like if I'm feeling like sad and down, there's definitely like I listen to like early Bon Iver and
so you're forcing a cry.
Yeah, when I feel like I need a cry, there's definitely albums and people that I'll go to. To be honest, normally it's like nice piano tracks like Ludovico and Einaudi and like these like really kind of like anthemic piano players. I know that's really not rock and roll, but that's my go-to sad music when I just feel I need to feel sorry for myself.
Yeah, no, I go to piano music too. Mine's Olafur Arnalds
Nice.
Iceland, and that music with he either has a cellist or a violinist behind him. It's like, well, I'm at the point now that I don't want to ever move out of this chair that I'm sitting in, because it's just that amazing feel of just the music is so perfect for a mood that you didn't realize you needed.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it as well. Like, we spent so much time like agonizing over song lyrics and making stories and creating backstories for characters that we're writing about, and then you listen to music like that which just does it all through the music itself, and you think, there's so much more to what we're doing as well.
Yeah. Now, what kind of is there? I mean, you've mentioned so much music, so I think this. I don't even want to ask the question, but something off the wall that you get tons of enjoyment out of listening to that people would be really surprised to hear.
I've kind of, and again, it was through like a radio show that I was listening to that I discovered, that's called like For the Love of Hip Hop, and it's basically this like great kind of radio, TV personality in the UK, just basically telling you and playing you his favourite hip hop tracks. And it's just a genre that I've never really discovered at all. And basically over the last year, I think he's on series 3 now, and I've just listened to it all, and it's that whole new, it's like discovering some of the best music and the best songs that have ever been there in the genres that I love and listen to all the time. But I'm now getting to discover that in a whole new genre. So yeah, I've been really into kind of hip hop recently, which is great from a lyrical point of view as well, because some of those lyrics are absolutely like insane, absolutely off the wall.
And that's a great thing to bring up, and it's a great talking point, because I don't live where you are. I've been there, but I don't know what that music scene is really like. And is there a hip hop scene in Scotland? And maybe that's why you never found it, because it's not a big thing. And me growing up, being lucky enough to grow up outside of New York City, I mean, I was there when it began, so it was always been ingrained in my body. But trying to figure out overseas what the difference is, I mean, is there any type of scene like that over there? Or
I think over here it's like the grime scene is really basically our equivalent of a hip hop scene, I feel, but especially like you can hear the influences, and when you listen to some of these artists who are traditionally or are classed as grime artists, but you put those back to back with some hip hop songs and they're in the exact same camp. It's just the way that some people kind of define music and just the scene that they're in. So yeah, that's definitely the kind of equivalent over here.
And what is, especially for, let's say, alt rock, we'll pigeonhole you there. I think you have more pop sensibilities to it, like you probably mentioned before. But I mean, what is the scene in such a small country? What's the scene like for the music that you're playing there right now?
I mean, it's great. It's still coming back post COVID, and I think it was a really strong scene. Kind of everybody knew each other. We were all similar ages, and we'd all kind of come up together. And it was almost like the class before us had moved on to the bigger venues, and now we were all kind of taking turns touring around playing the same venues. And now all of a sudden, kind of 3 years on, there's this kind of new group of people who have come out of lockdown with amazing music and who have become, blown up on TikTok and have a following there. And I don't know, it feels like a very kind of in between kind of scene to be in at the moment, because you've still got, there's new, there's old, and everybody's still kind of getting that momentum back, I think, and live anyway, and just trying to get people back in rooms and on seats.
Yeah. Now, is there besides, okay, you cannot say dancing on tables with this, but is there a band that in your scene out there right now that maybe they're not together anymore, or they still are, that you just think is just fantastic and you want so much more for them? And again, you can't say dancing on tables.
I'll resist the temptation. To be honest, one that I'd go for is he's a great guy, and the band are amazing, and they just headlined the Barrowlands, which is the kind of big iconic venue in Glasgow, which has had probably just about every big artist over the years. But it's a band called Declan Welsh and the Decadent West, and yeah, I've loved their music for years, and they seem to be blowing up again right now. But they're just really nice people, and yeah, one of my favorite bands to listen to anyway.
It makes it easier to like a band when there's nice people involved with it.
Definitely, that was the first thing that I was ever told, kind of, by another older musician that I looked up to. It was like,
don't be a cunt. Is that what he said?
that is exactly it. It's just going to make your life harder. There's no need for it. Just be nice to people. Be a genuinely nice person.
And I've told people it's easier to be nice than it is to be, you can still say fuck you with a smile on your face. So
Yeah, sometimes it's more enjoyable to do it that way as well.
Yeah. Someone told me recently that they're like, just say that's swell whenever you want to like tell someone off. Just be like, yeah, that's swell, and see what they do.
I'm
Shout
going to
out to
use
my
that
boy
one as well.
JJ. Yeah, that's so swell. Now, all right, we've been here for a little while. It took us a while to get together, so I'm glad that we finally got here to talk. And what is it that your message of dancing on tables that you want to get out to people and why they should listen to you? I mean, they're going to listen to the first 45 minutes of the show and figure out why they should, but why would you want someone to go out and listen to Dancing on Tables and enjoy all your hard work?
I would say I think we, in our own way, fill a gap between bands that, and I'm not saying every band's like this, but bands who play amazing music and you sing along to the tracks, and bands where are musicians where they write kind of beautiful songs that are filled with emotion and mean so much. And I think we kind of straddle those two things nicely, in my opinion anyway, and have lovely music that you can jump about to and sing along. But what you're singing along with means something and has stories and influence behind it. So that is also true for a lot of other bands, I imagine, but that's my selling point anyway.
Hey, no, it's a great selling point. You just sold yourself as a gateway drug, so that's it.
Yes, that is also what I probably should have called my first band. That's a good band name.
But before we come in on our time and go into our last segment, I'd love to give you the opportunity right now to tell everybody around the world how it is they can find and keep up with Dancing on Tables and keep track of everything that's going on and how to find you guys, all your handles and all that kind of stuff. Give you that opportunity now.
Yeah, so we're basically every kind of social media. If you search Dancing on Tables, we'll probably be near the top. If it's not Dancing on Tables, it's got full stops in between the words. We like to, we were speaking about this the other day actually, that the social media platforms like Facebook's the one in front of your parents and you're very fun and proper, and then Instagram's the one where maybe you're with like your brother and you're less formal and proper, but you're still kind of looking after what you're doing. And then on TikTok, we're just like silly little boys, basically, just doing everything. So that's the 3 tiers, and they can choose which tier they want to follow, or all.
Just follow them all, depending on the mood you're in that day. Do you want to see him with his parents, his brother, or with his dick out? It's up to you.
That's the one.
Well, that's awesome. So we're in our final segment, so I don't know if you need to pull up your phone, find your playlist, but this is our weekly 3 segment of 3 things that you're listening to right now that you'd like people to check out.
Okay, I'm going to check what I've been listening to recently and literally just go for recent things. In fact, I'm going to start with, and I'm sure they're a New York band, and I don't think they're even together anymore, but so it probably isn't as big a revelation there as it is here, but Public Access Television are one of my favourite bands ever, and they never quite broke through into the big time. And yeah, I just love them. So go for that. Another one, I went to see them last weekend, actually, the Beautiful South, who are a kind of Northern English band. And to be honest, that was one of the first examples of when you can have lyrics that have amazing stories, but the song is so catchy as well.
Yeah.
Because the guy, Paul Heaton, who I saw the other night, just he writes about anything, but you end up absolutely loving it and singing along. And third is a band that are probably they're a band I'm very jealous of, because from day one, and this was maybe like 10 years ago, they said that they're not going to do any social media, and they still haven't. But they still play big venues and do very well, which for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, why can't I be them? But they're a band called Parquet Courts, and they're just such a cool band. Their music is like fun and catchy and really quirky and experimental at times. But yeah, just really, really good. So that's my 3 recommendations.
Nice. Good 3.
Thank you.
My 3 for this week. My first one is a band called Second Grade. It's the number 2 with the ND after it, Second Grade, and the album is called Hit to Hit.
I'm writing this down as you say it, by the way.
Okay. My second one is a band called Bass Drum of Death. They have an EP called Head Change, and I love the name, and then when you listen to the music, it's not what you thought it would be. It's just like rock and roll from Mississippi.
Nice.
Yeah. And then last but not least is a band called Two Nights, and that's 2 TWO Nights with a K. And they have an EP called Effing, and that's EFFING. It's a cool EP, and they're a Texas emo band. So those are the 3 things I'm listening to this week, besides Dancing on Tables.
Well, those are 3 new additions to my playlist, so I'm going to check them out after this.
Well, listen, you can't get mad at me if you don't like it. That's the rule here. I'm just putting out music that I'm listening to. You don't have to like it or dislike it, but follow us on Instagram to find out all the other 3s we've had, because I guarantee you're going to find something you love.
I will do. That's the beauty. And even if I don't like those 3, it's going to kind of subtly influence something in some way when I go to listen to something else. So
yeah,
it's all a journey.
Well, Robbie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for creating the music that brought us together, which I think is the most important thing. Meeting someone around the world for the first time based solely on the music you create, I think is one of the most important things that we have in this world today. And I thank you for doing that and bringing us together. No,
thank you. I've had a great time, and hopefully it can be face to face at some point when we're over there next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I will make a point and make the time to absolutely come and see you.
Absolutely. Amazing. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you too. And everybody, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Dancing on Tables, and have a great fucking time.
I've been trying to figure out where it all went wrong. You've been telling me to write it in a song. I've seen life without you being in the picture. So please take me back. It can't come any quicker. How did we end up in this disaster? When did you take the wheel and leave me stranded? I haven't slept in weeks, too busy thinking about how it sounds when she speaks, and I'm sorry missing all it takes and all the quirks. I'd give it all, give my whole world. So how do I get back to her? The type that thinks they're always right. You told me when you got up and left my life. Now time's passed, but no matter what, I just can't move on. I'm lost in a race I thought I'd already won. How did we end up in this disaster? When did you take the wheel and leave me stranded? And I'm sorry missing all it takes and all
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.